Recording in progress.
My camera is going to be on. Good morning, honorable members, and good morning to, can't see myself here well. Good morning to the team that is supporting us from Parliament, and also good morning to the NHLS board, chair, and the CEO. I do hope that I'm audible. Something has happened in my computer. I don't see myself well, but I think I'm there. Thank you very much for logging into this meeting. We are about to start. I've noticed that at the time I started counting, there was already 5 members who are here, portfolio committee members who had logged, or there's 6 now, yes. So we could then start. I have not seen, I've only seen Mr. Mshwana from the Department of Health, but so long, that's fine. Can I hand over to you, Ms. Majalamba, to confirm if we do have a quorum of members of Parliament who are in this portfolio committee? Thank you.
Good morning and thank you, Chair. Yes, we do have a quorum. Present is Dr. Lomo, Ms. Treko, Ms. Shabangu, Ms. Sine, Dr. Liru, Mr. Mutubadzi, Mr. Mchadu, and Mr. Van Staden. I've received an apology from Mr. Zungula. Thank you, Chair.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay, before we move on very far out.
Chair.
Yes, Dr. Carl.
I know that Ms. Clark is also unlikely to be able to join today. She said she was going to try, but where she is, she might have difficulty connecting. So I just wanted to pass on that apology as well. Thank you.
Thank you, accepted. May I request that we see this new member who is with us. That's Honorable Mr. Mjadu from MK Party. He did indicate to me that he will be joining us, and Ms. Majalamba also informed me yesterday there's a new member. I requested him that maybe as we start, he could just show his face and we recognize and welcome him. Honorable Mr. Mjadu. Are you able to show your face, Honorable Mjadu?
Yes, I think I'm having the same problem. I don't know whether you can see my face.
We can
You can't see me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you see me now?
Not yet. But maybe when you are making your input, we'll see you. But let's welcome Honorable Mjadu. May I just check, Honorable Mjadu, last time I heard about you, you were a reverend. We just had Reverend Kwabaza. And now we have you. Have you left that title or is still part of
I'm still a reverend, but I don't mind if you call me Mr. Mjadu. I don't have a problem with that. But I'm a reverend in church. I don't have a problem with that. I'm still a pastor.
Yeah, you go with that tag until to your grave. So I'm happy you don't mind. We remember you are Mr. Mjadu, but some of us who know you from long time will be Reverend Mjadu. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Novicha.
Yeah, honorable members, we are having this virtual meeting We will also want to remind members that even though it's virtual, it will be taken to be in the precinct of Parliament, and therefore any rules that apply to the National Assembly meetings in Parliament will also apply to this rule, to this meeting. And just to remind you, honorable members, that we would want to give this meeting that decorum of the parliamentary process. And therefore, would like to indicate that we have just one agenda item today. Preamble to this is that we have received annual reports of all departments that work under and with us provincially and nationally, including other entities that brought. There was one entity that actually did not manage to come and present their performance report against their plan, and that was National Laboratory Health Services, NHLS, and they are here today to just present that to us. I've requested, and I was trying to speak to Professor Mlisana before this meeting, and I might as well report her that she did not take my call, Professor Mpahlele. But what I was requesting was that it's a very long presentation, 50 slides. When I scan through those slides, the first 10, 15 slides, it's slides that you may probably not share with us in detail or not share them at all, because this is not the first time we are having the portfolio committee meeting with NHLS. So the presentations there in those slides is like introductions to us about you. So those slides, you can either go them very quickly or skip them if you can, so that you can still be able to finish at a reasonable time and engage and get members to engage with yourselves. May I firstly get, before I give you to take over, to check if there are any representatives of the Department of Health nationally who are here, and they may introduce themselves first. Any?
Good morning, Chair. Anmin Pillay here from the National Department. I'm the DDG in the National Department. Thank you.
Okay, you have a long voice. Maybe you are accompanied by Mr. Khatla, who is always a permanent resident of here, and Ms. Mshwana, yeah?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members. This is Ms. Mushwana from the Department of Health. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Mshwana. Can I now give back to the chairperson of the board, Professor Mpahlele, who will then take us through. They will indicate who actually starts from between himself and the CEO. But over to you. You probably may introduce your board members and therefore hand over to whoever is going to present, minding the request that I'm making that you just become very thin or quite fast on the first 10, 15 slides. Thank you very much. Professor, over to you now.
I hope you can hear me.
Very well, thanks.
Okay. No, thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, Dr. Dlomo. And we appreciate this opportunity for being invited to the Portfolio Committee to present our annual report and maybe also to highlight some updates. I do have indeed other board members that I would like to invite them to just say a few words, just to introduce themselves, if they can just open the camera. Starting with the Deputy Chairperson of the board, Dr. Craig. Okay, so I do have Dr. Craig Housen, who is the Deputy Chairperson of the board. Oh, yeah, there you are.
I'm struggling to open my up. Good morning, Chair, and good morning, honourable members. I am the Deputy Chair of the NHLS board, and I was appointed on the 1st of November 2024. Thank you.
Thank you. Then the other member that I see is Mr. Michael Sachs.
Morning, Chair, and morning, chairs, and everybody. My name is Michael Sachs. I am the chair of the Finance Committee, and I've been aboard. This is my second term as a board member. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we have Advocate Majudina.
Good morning, honorable members. Good morning, honorable members. My name is Mati Majudina. I'm a board member. Thank you.
All right. So the last one is Professor Divani Mashamba Thompson.
I've been introduced already. You have my name. I am the chairperson of Research and Innovation. I am also in the second term of my service in the board. Thank you.
Okay, and the CEO, Prof. Koleka Mlisana, if you can greet members of the...
Mr. Nkoko is online as well.
Okay, I missed that. Please go ahead, Mr. Nkoko.
Thank you very much, Chair, and good morning to the honorable members and honorable Chair. My name is Kwena Nkoko. I'm the board member and the chairperson of ARC in the second term. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And then
Ms.
the
Makanda
CEO.
as well. Sorry, Chair. There's Ms. Makanda as well.
Okay.
Next page.
Good morning, Chairperson and Deputy Minister. My name is Nyameka Makanda. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Nyameka. And I hope I haven't missed any board member. So I would like to invite the CEO, Prof. Koleka.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good morning, honorable members. And Honorable Dr. Dlomo, I want to apologize. I missed your call. I was actually busy in a meeting. I'm only saying it now. My apologies for that. But my name is Koleka Mlisana. I am the CEO of the NHLS, and I have got my team with me around the table. Maybe what we can just do is that they will introduce themselves as we go either through the presentation or when the questions are asked. Thank you, Chair.
Indeed, to save the time. Honorable Chair, now that we introduced ourselves, I just want to formally greet other honorable members of the committee, and also greetings to the representatives of our executive authority, National Department of Health, and everybody else that could be on the call. We will make the presentation really short, as you requested, and I would like to request the management to flight the slides so that we can start.
Okay. Yeah,
unless there is a question.
Yeah, Prof, let me then formally do this, which I missed. Honorable members, may I therefore request that we formally adopt this agenda. There is a presentation from NHLS. Thereafter, after they've left, we'll deal with a set of minutes, 2 sets of minutes. Before I allow Professor to start and lead the presentation, may I just get a confirmation from honorable members that we do confirm and accept this agenda as an agenda that we are going to work from. Honorable members.
Agreed, Chair?
No, Honorable Dr. Kali, you must then say, I am Dr. Kaleru, I move. And then you get a seconder. So I'll take that we are moving, that we agree. Any...
Chair, thank you.
Honorable Mutubatse?
Chair, I'm moving.
Okay,
I'm seconding, sorry. I'm seconding. Sorry.
Okay, we will then work with this agenda. Honorable members, moved by Honorable Dr. Leroux, seconded by Honorable Mutubatse. Thank you very much. Back to you, Professor. I'm sorry for that interjection. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. So as you can see the presentation, that is the first slide. Can we move on to the next slide, please? So just to introduce the purpose of why we are here, to provide the annual report for the past financial year, and also highlight some achievements, progress, and any other pertinent information that we would like to share with the committee. So this is the structure of the presentation, and I will take the first part, which is introduction and governance, and I'll make it really brief so that we can go to the performance that we would like to highlight to the committee members. Next slide, please. So a few things that I would like to highlight, honorable members. So the first is our high-level organogram, that we are members, we belong to the Department of Health, as you know, and this is the high-level structure of NHLS. We do have institutes, which are on the right-hand side, and then obviously the left-hand side is the corporate structure of the NHLS. The good news is that we filled almost all these positions, and it's only one that we are recruiting or finalizing the recruitment. Next slide, please. Okay, we can skip this one in the interest of time. Okay, so yeah, this is the area that I would like to highlight. There's been some changes during last year, especially towards the end of last year. We had the change in the chairmanship of the board. As you know, Prof. Eric Buch, who used to be the chair for some time, and his end of the term has actually reached statutory limits, so he is no longer the chair, and I then replaced him from the 1st of November last year. And the other big change is that we changed the CEO because the previous one, Dr. Kemi Chetty, also left the employ of NHLS. So Prof. Koleka started with NHLS from the 1st of May. And we do have other new members that are not necessarily listed here, but because this is for the previous financial year, the faces that you see are actually members that were there during the previous financial year. So we can move on. Those who are moving the slide, yeah, we can move on. So additional members of the board. Okay, this is the executive committee. Obviously, the CEO is Prof. Koleka Mlisana, and the rest of the team will introduce themselves if they do have the opportunity, maybe to respond to questions later. The next slide. So the only thing that I can just refresh everyone is that NHLS has got a three-legged mandate, which is about diagnostic service, training, and research. So for the diagnostic service, we pride ourselves with the fact that we would like to provide low cost, but it's not just low cost service. It is a service that has to be high quality and also efficient service. And for the board, obviously, the main role is governance. So we will hear a lot about, the training, the service, and the research, as the CEO will be presenting our performance for the previous financial year. So I will pause here, Honorable Chair, and then I invite the CEO to take us through the rest of the presentation. So over to you, Prof. Koleka.
Thank you very much, Chair, for that. Good morning, honorable members. So I'm just going to take us through, and I'll try to be efficient with time. So as an entity, just a quick overview, a strategic overview, is that as we are established, we want to ensure that we maintain and nurture strong partnerships, and obviously our key stakeholders is the department, national and provincial health departments, as well as some other global agencies that we have collaborations with. And obviously these are the partners that play a crucial role in ensuring that we are able to actually deliver our mandate, and we are able to expand the reach of our critical activities where appropriate. And we are obviously, operating within corporate governance standards and as outlined, in the King 4 report. So the National Health Lab Services financial and operational performance is obviously critical to ensure sustainability of the activities and the mandate that we serve. And we do want to just highlight upfront that unfortunately for the year under review, 2023-2024, we received a qualified audit opinion, and there are, critical areas that we need to address as an entity, and we have already established a plan towards, addressing those issues. However, we do want to just state that we managed to achieve 72% of our, annual performance targets, and I will share those briefly. Then, if we look at this is really just the legal framework, Chair, and as we have already said, everybody is now familiar with the NHLS. Just to remind everybody that we inherited forensic chemistry labs in 2022, and we continue to improve, the services within that sector. And these are the, legislations that we operate under. Just to remind the honorable members that our head office is based in Sandringham in Johannesburg, and that is where the other institute, one of the institutes, the NICD, is based as well. We otherwise operate within 6 regions where we have combined Free State with Northwest, Limpopo with Mpumalanga, and Northern Cape with Western Cape, and then we have Eastern Cape, Gauteng, and KwaZulu-Natal. So we, as a result, we have got 6 area managers that look after these 6 regions. And the institutes that we have is the NICD, which everybody is familiar with, and this is the entity within the country that looks at all surveillance and outbreaks responses for the country. So it is a public health institute. And then we have the Institute for Occupational Health. We also have already mentioned the forensic lab, and also something is hidden below here. Sorry, then we have got the subsidiary, which is the South African Vaccine Producers, the SAVP, which, as members would be familiar, is the sole antivenom manufacturer in the country. Our mandate, we have got 3 areas that we were mandated to do as government. One is offer diagnostic pathology services to all public health facilities. Secondly, to support research, as well as ensure that teaching and training within, pathology, is supported within the country. So we offer platforms for teaching and training, and we encourage and support research within the academic institutions. So we are the sole provider of diagnostic pathology services, wherein we provide these services to more than 85% of the South African population, because the other 15% or so is then serviced by the private sector. Our role is to ensure that we offer, countrywide network of quality assured diagnostic laboratories, as well as supporting surveillance for communicable diseases, occupational health, and cancer, as already highlighted, which is serviced by the institutes. So this just shows the areas that we're talking about and the 6 area managers. So, I mean, really, I think the members can have a look at that. It just gives an idea of each area, what revenue we're talking about, what the population is covered by the area manager, and how many NHLS facilities are within those areas. And then I will move on to the next slide. So Chair, really, insofar as how we operate as an entity, we have got the board that plays an oversight role and therefore responsible for ensuring and managing risk. You know, whilst we manage the risk, but the board then plays an oversight in ensuring that whatever risks that have been identified, those are handled and managed efficiently by the executives. And so you will find that the approach we have taken is that there's an enterprise-wide risk management processes which are actually embedded within all levels of the entity. We have got a dedicated risk management and internal audit department that coordinates the implementations of the risk management strategy, and this the audit internal audit unit then reports directly to the board and operationally to the executive. Otherwise, the board continues to discharge the responsibilities because we have got an audit and risk committee, which, as we have heard, is chaired by Mr. Nkoko. And we continue to implement risk mitigation action plans, and these are submitted quarterly and they are monitored by the board. And we've got systems in place wherein we are able to report whether it's fraud, it's corruption, or unethical behavior. So just to come to the performance highlights, Chair, I'll start with the financial performance. So the NHLS revenue in 23-24 grew by 200 million, 12.2 billion to 12.4 billion, which constitutes a 1% increase. And we're able to record an increase in cash and cash equivalents of 572 million. And if we're looking at the volumes of tests that we have performed, we were able to reach 114.5, just under 114.5 million tests, as compared to the previous year where it was 110.5 million. And the liquidity ratio has improved, and the CFO will talk to this a little bit more. 4.7:1 in 2022-23 to 6.1 in the current year under review. And we have managed to maintain a strong financial viability, and we have managed to sustain our cash reserves. So if we're looking at the non-financials, just a few highlights of what we have managed to achieve in the reporting year. As we are responsible for training of registrars who are specializing in pathology, we have managed to increase the pass rates. If you're looking at where we're sitting in 2019, from 43% to 67% by the reported year. Whilst this is, we obviously want to see even higher rates, but there are systems in place to see how we can improve these rates even further. And we have managed to get our laboratories accredited. Now we are sitting at 64% of the labs that are accredited. And I do want to highlight to the members that all the national central labs are accredited. And there was just one outstanding, provincial tertiary labs that was not accredited, and it now has been. So all provincial tertiary labs, as we speak, are accredited. We have got a few regional labs that have not been accredited, and that is our target now. And insofar as the district laboratories are concerned, we are actually way above target, but we want to focus on ensuring that all the labs are accredited, especially in preparation for NHI as well. Wastewater and environmental surveillance, we're able to expand the scope. We expanded the scope of SARS-CoV-2 surveillance to actually include other vaccine-preventable pathogens. The blood alcohol test backlogs, the members will appreciate that we really have struggled with these backlogs, and specifically around toxicology, and we'll talk about this later on. But we were able to clear the backlogs for blood alcohol testing in the Cape Town and Pretoria forensic chemistry labs. And so the aim is to continue clearing this backlog so that come, in the next months, a year or two, we will be able to say we've cleared both blood alcohol as well as toxicology testing. But that still needs a lot of work. Then the NICD has been able to provide a comprehensive support in response to the Mpox outbreak within the country. As everybody would know, that we were going through the Mpox outbreak, and the NICD has managed to keep all of us aware and updating and provide support. The NIOH provided the street reclaimers with health and safety training so as to enhance, the street reclaimers' awareness of work environment hazards and how to protect themselves. And we were able, insofar as IT is concerned, we have been able to migrate, 4 academic laboratories during this period to Sunbrand, which is a more stable network, and it obviously improves our connectivity. And the plan is to continue and move all the academic labs to the, in fact, to move all NHLS labs to this, to Sunbrand. And NIOH is now the WHO Collaborating Center for Occupational Health in Sub-Saharan Africa, and we are proud of this achievement, from NIOH. Then looking at the performance by programs. So, Chair, what we have tried to do with this slide is to summarize all the different programs that we have. So we have managed to achieve 72% of the planned annual targets. And if you're looking at, I know, just to make sure that the people are not confused about this slide, what we are showing here is that of the 6 programs that we have, for example, the surveillance and communicable diseases, which is NICD, they were able to achieve 100% of the set targets. The administration area was able to achieve 83% of the targets. Occupational health and environmental health safety, 75%, and then 50% from lab services, forensic chemistry, and aqua academic affairs, research and quality assurance, 55%. So this is what we have achieved. What we are highlighting to the members is what we then have not achieved, which is basically the 28% that we have not achieved, and that's what we'll be talking to. So, starting with the laboratory service program 1, and the first 3, which is CD4 testing, HIV viral loads, and UNEs, were not able to reach the turnaround times, as you can see here. And the main reasons here is that we are aware that the infrastructure and the laboratory equipment is aging. So our labs often get, frequent instrument breakdowns. We are currently in the process of correcting that. So there is transitioning from the old instruments to new techs. So you find that whilst the aging equipment will give us instrument breakdowns, when you then bring in new equipment, you often have got delays because you've got to change from old to new high-tech analyzers. So that has been one of the reasons that has caused us not to reach these turnaround times, especially for these high volume tests like UNE, and that's why it is actually in this list. There also are often challenges with delays in referral of specimens from clinics to the testing laboratories, and sometimes the network downtime as well as load shedding. These are highlighted because these really represent the highest volumes of the tests that we do. So we are, with the current plan and the transition into high tech, we are confident that we'll be able to fix this and we'll be able to ensure that we're reaching our turnaround times for all the tests that we are doing within the lab. We had wanted to develop and implement a point of care plan. Unfortunately, we were not able to achieve this within the reported time. However, the pilot was completed and we really have been looking at feasibility and cost benefit report. And as we speak, we now have already developed a plan for point of care rollout, and the board has looked at the plan and has approved the plan, and so we are looking at rolling out this plan. Then, because of the challenges that we often find in anatomical pathology, specifically around the availability of pathologists, we then want to go the route of using digital pathology, which allows pathologists to be able to view the slides and report on them, irrespective of where they are based. And we had hoped that this would have been up and running by this year, but we're not able to achieve this. And this was really relating to some of the issues and challenges we have in procurement. But this now has been done. We have got the tender approved, and we are really in the process of implementing digital pathology. Then, looking at the AQUA program, this is where we look at quality. So when we talk about proficiency testing schemes, this is where we send out samples to all the labs to ensure there's quality. So this is our quality assurance program. And we were not able to reach 94%, which was the target. And the reason for this, it is because it's either the clinics that we're sending to or the labs we're sending to delay bringing results back, or their non-return of these proficiency testing results. But also, we actually were migrating from a manual to a digital reporting system. And we realized that the labs needed training, because they then had to actually report the morphology. For example, if we're talking, hematology or microbiology, for example, they would need to report the morphology themselves onto the system. And some of them, it took a little bit of a while for them to get used to that reporting. But that training has now been done, and this should have improved, for the next year. I've already spoken about the provincial tertiary labs that we had aimed to have the last 17th lab accredited, and we failed to do that in the reported year, but we have now accredited that lab. And so all the provincial tertiary labs, as we speak, are accredited. The regional labs were not able to get to 38, which was our target. The total of these labs are 45, so we have got around 7 labs that in the regional lab level that are not accredited. One of the reasons and challenges was that there was a transition from an old ISO standard to a new one, and training took longer. And then secondly, the accrediting body, which is the SANAS, had to stop accepting initial applications because of the new standard that was being introduced. Then, insofar as certifying the support departments under ISO 9001, the target was 6, and we only managed to be sitting at 5. The diagnostic media products certification had to be suspended because the DMP building needed to be renovated. We continue to ensure that we get the other supporting departments ready for accreditation. This is an area that we really just need to focus on, because we're not able to reach this target. Around publications, we saw this increase in number of publications during the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, and in fact, you see this across all research centers, and we really just feel when we made this target, we really were looking at what we were seeing in the previous 2 years, which were COVID-19 driven. And now we're realizing that we probably put in much higher targets, whereas now that we are post-COVID, we have gone back to our performance pre-COVID. And so we'll need to just rectify this into the future. And then for occupational and environmental health, the turnaround times were not reached. And this really is because, unfortunately, during the reporting period, we lost critical staff members, and this created a backlog, and therefore we're not able to honor the turnaround times. But we have already corrected that, in that now we have been able to appoint more pathologists within NIOH. About forensic chemistry labs, so the reduction of toxicology, this is where we have got a big problem and a big challenge. We are very much aware of this. We're far from reaching the target. And because really, you know, not all the forensic labs firstly are performing the toxicology tests, but even those that are performing, they are undercapacitated. So we have just received an approval from the board with a plan how to clear the backlog, and come this year 25-26 we are implementing that plan. And the plan is actually, we've targeted that, you know, we are giving ourselves 24 months to ensure that all the toxicology tests are cleared, you know, and because it means getting dedicated staff and ensuring that there are dedicated instruments to perform the samples, and we should be able to clear this within the next 24 months. About then the other target was the percentage of non-perishable food samples that needed to be tested within 60 days of sampling, and the issue here as well is capacity. We're seeing that we need to actually increase the testing capacity, and some of these strategies we've used is that we're now implementing over time so that we can increase the testing outputs. Financial, we've got a challenge with the debtors days, and the CFO will take us through this because the provinces continue to struggle to pay their debts due to the financial constraints, and we are in the process of engaging with the provinces, and we'll further talk to this. And then obviously the concern is that we received a qualified audit opinion from the Auditor General, and we have already initiated action plans to address these issues. HR is around reaching the target percentage of employees that are trained as per approved workplace skills plan. The reason that we did not meet this target is due really to delays in sourcing external service providers for groups courses, and at some stage during the reporting period we had to undergo cost containment measures, and this did impact on the rollout of some of the courses, but we're in the process of correcting that, Chair. Very quickly, I can just go this one slide. I'm looking at the HR executive. I think I'll let her rest and she can just respond to questions. So we, at the reporting time, we're sitting at 8,215 staff members. The personnel expenditure increased by 5% to 5 billion from 4.8 billion in the previous year. And we remain, as already mentioned, the sole provider of registrars, training registrars, and we then provide a training platform for medical scientists, technologists, medical lab scientists, technicians, and lab assistants across the country. We just wanted to highlight that we are responsible for to the members. And this just then takes us through our staff members. And as you can see, we actually have got a total of 2,000 men. Just bear in mind, this is for males. And actually, pathology is a female-driven, a field where we've got just under 4,000 females. And if you're looking at the targets, we really are sitting comfortably insofar as actually across through the whole spectrum of staff. We are sitting, just at the right targets, and so we are doing well insofar as these numbers are concerned. And I'll hand over to the finance to just take us through this slide, Chair.
Thanks, Prof. Lusana, and good morning to the honourable members, and morning to the board as led by Prof. Mpahlele. I am Phumeza Mayeki, so I am the NHLS CFO. So from a financial overview as NHLS, so we have reported a revenue of just under 12.4 billion, as Prof alluded to, in comparison to the previous financial year. So we have a 1% increase on that. And then in terms of our cost of sales, which is basically the cost of providing our tests, and would include our labor and also our direct materials. That one has remained consistent year on year. And then in relation to the, our revenue makes up 93% of the total, revenue from rendering services makes up 93% of the total revenue bill. And then labor cost is 51%. And just to say, Chair, that we are managing that one very closely as the NHLS, because we are aware that it is one cost that would lead to significant portions. And then our direct materials is 47%. And then the other number that we reported, maybe move to the next slide. So in terms of our assets, so we have invested as NHLS in our capital investment towards really getting a better return on investment. So our assets increased from 10.5 billion to 11.8 billion. And as Prof had indicated below, our cash balance has increased year on year, where we had 5.1 billion in the previous financial year, and we closed the financial year for 23-24 at 5.7 billion rand. And we've also been closely monitoring our liabilities, where we've got a reduction of 11%, where we reduced it from 1.9 billion to 1.7. And just to speak to the liquidity ratio, as Prof. Mlisana had indicated, so that's the ratio that basically measures the ability for us to have money to run our business on a day-to-day basis. So we've also seen an improvement in relation to that ratio, where we moved from 4.7:1 to 6:1, and it is driven by the fact that our cash balance has increased year on year, though we are obviously concerned as NHLS in respect of what that would look like in the future, because we've seen a reduction in terms of what the provinces have been doing towards servicing the debt. Next part. Okay, so maybe I'll start off with an introductory remark on this one, and then Prof will continue the discussions. So we wanted just to bring to the honorable members our concern around the fact that we are seeing a steady increase in relation to the provincial debt. As you can see, at the end of 2019-20.
Sorry, CFO, I'm just checking this slide. What is the number? Just remember to give us the number of this slide. Slide what? This one that we are now projecting, and two more other slides after it. It's quite significant to note. What slide number is this?
It's slide number 42. It's number 42.
Yeah, honorable members, just pay attention, honorable members, mainly to these slides that are coming in. I think about 3 of them. Thanks. Continue, sorry, CFO.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Chair. So what we wanted to point out is that we've seen a steady increase in relation to our provincial debt. So at the end of 2019-20, we were sitting at 4.7 billion, and it's steadily increased, where we closed the financial year 23-24, it's just under 7.8, and currently at the end of January, we're sitting at just under 8.9 billion in terms of what the provinces owe. So this is obviously one of the areas that is quite a big concern for the NHLS in terms of our risk management. So we just wanted the honorable members to take note of that. And we are, from our side, we do have initiatives in terms of how we're managing that. Okay, so this is just in a comparison in terms of really looking at the situation year on year. So at the end of January last year, we were sitting at 7.5 billion rand, and at the end of January in the current financial year, we sit at just under the 8.9, which is then an increase really of it's about 1.3 billion rand. So as much as we acknowledge all the efforts that the provinces have endeavored in terms of servicing of the debt, but really, Chair, it would be something that we wanted to point out that we are concerned. And just to say that the amounts that you see in relation to 2017 financial year and previous year are really around the provinces that Prof. Mlisana had alluded to. The biggest chunk is sitting within the KZN region, where I think it is known that there was a provincial debt that was building on from that year. But I must indicate that we've seen that the province has really endeavored to service the account very well. If you look at the trend over the next financial years, their balances that they owe were very low, but we then are carrying a significant portion in relation to the current financial year, because I think what they did from their perspective was to really focus on servicing the historic debt, and that's why we saw the reduction. So the other provinces that are of concern is the Eastern Cape, Gauteng region, and Northern Cape, and they are the ones then that that we are actually focusing as NHLS to make sure that we have arrangements that will assist in terms of the servicing of those accounts. And maybe when we do questions and answers, we'll speak to around that.
Chair, this one then just looks at a historic presentation on the tariff increase, and really just wanted to highlight this one that unfortunately we really, over the years, we have not been able to manage to get the the tariff increases that we have requested, and it just says to everybody that we really need to understand that we are really moving through a very tight financial environment, within the country. And so this obviously becomes a huge concern for us, because if, as the CFO has presented, we are challenged insofar as the provinces servicing their debt, and even the tariff increases are not coming as we would like to see them come through, it obviously causes concern. And we thought we'll just make a note around the last one, 24-25, in that we actually had requested a 4.8 tariff increase, and we were offered 1%. And unfortunately, because of the negotiations, even around that 1%, the year ended before that the tariff increase could be realized. So we ended up with really without an increase, and we're really hoping that within this, the next year, we'll be able to engage early so that some of these increases can actually be materialized. So, Chair, and I think this is my second, a few slides are left now. Really, I think the point that we wanted to highlight is that as an entity, it's going to be very difficult, and I'm sure everybody appreciates this, to fully deliver on our mandate, with insufficient cash resources. And that is why we're doing everything that we can to ensure that we are financially prudent, but also at the same time, we really do need to ensure that the provinces really do their best to service the debt, as well as to ensure that the discussions around tariffs, we engage on those much earlier. And also looking at our debtors book, and we really are very concerned about this, and it's really just not going to be sustainable into the future, and we really need to do something about it. We appreciate the budget cuts that the provinces are going through, and so we really feel we just need to find solutions on how we can navigate through these difficult times together with our principals. And so if we look at, then we thought we'd just highlight to the committee, because everybody knows that we have had a IT cyber attack, and what we're trying to do with this next 1 or 2 slides or so is just to highlight that we were able to identify key risks, and we have implemented mitigation strategies for those risks. This was now post the cyber attack, and we are aware that how we got attacked was through phishing, on emails, and we have put a solutions to counteract that, and even the endpoint, malware, challenges that we had. There's also a secure endpoint that has actually been established right now, and the patch management, is now being rolled out. And then basically, some of the next steps that we have, and the roadmap is that we really just want to ensure that all the systems and the programs that are going to strengthen our IT system are in place. And we are currently, we realize that another big gap was, security awareness among staff members. And so we are now finalizing a solution for that, wherein we will be able to bring in, service providers that can do a continuous training so that everybody, is aware of what the dangers and what not to do around these phishing emails that we receive on a daily basis. And we are currently refining, the cybersecurity strategy. And we thought we'll just highlight to the members that the board has really been very supportive in that all the, we have post the IT cyber attack, there are significant solutions that we have managed to purchase through tenders that have been approved by the board, and there's still, quite a bit more that are to come. And also, just to highlight that we now are waiting for the appointment of the new CIO, because the previous one, his term came to an end. And so we are hoping that once the CIO comes on board as well, then that individual will be able to ensure that we've got a resilient IT environment. And as the last slide, we thought just to allay, members' fears that, as you can see here, we're looking to see how much recovery has happened, because the cyber attack occurred on the 21st of June. I'm not going to forget that date, because I was 6 weeks into my position, and this actually resulted in a complete halt of all the services. Because remember, all these labs, if we did 114 million tests in the reported financial year, that actually works out to just under 400,000 tests that we do each day. And these are done, through our systems, and this had to come to a halt and everything had to be done manually. So as a result, we had to create an essential diagnostic list so that we could only do the important and critical tests to reduce the workload. As a result, there was hardly anything that came through in July, because we were unable to access our systems for a full 6 weeks. It only really, we started to get back towards the end of July, beginning of August. And as you can see, that we have really tried to get all the backlog, because the clinics and hospitals were sending work, but then we had to then get the work back onto our systems when we're online. And we have managed, really, if you're looking at all this, the recent months, in that now we've gone back to the pre-cyber attack volumes, and even the previous years as well. So we have recovered, and the labs are now functioning. The only issue, I wouldn't say we are completely out of the woods, is that we continue to strengthen our IT services, and it's going to be a culture, because it's not going to be just where we say we're fine, but we need to really get the organization into a culture of cybersecurity awareness, and that is what we are looking forward to do. Thank you, Chair. I will stop here.
Okay, thank you, Professor Mphahlele, and thanks to Professor Mlisana and your team. Honorable members, you send the picture. There was a particular time I asked them to pause and start so that you note a bit that it's like a vicious cycle, and the National Department of Health will also come in here. Provinces battle to pay, and they are showing there which ones are struggling more than the others. And then in that event, therefore, NHLS is actually having much more of a debt sitting with them. It's getting worse than yesterday. And this side, they are asking for tariff increases. There's no corresponding or responding story to that they can increase to the level desired. Somehow, someday, they will going to hit a big problem. Deputy Chair, sometime in this meeting, you'll need to make a comment because in your previous life, you were once an HOD of the Western Cape Department of Health. And the Western Cape Department of Health seems to be relatively doing well in terms of paying their debt. Once upon a time, I was told it's because Western Cape is able to check that Professor Mlisana is not double dipping, is not actually asking, you are able to say, no, but we are not going to send this. Firstly, you actually audit and make sure that your clinicians are not asking for FBC every day, unless it is mandatory, and therefore you are able to streamline that part. Western Cape is an outlier here in terms of doing relatively well in terms of paying back to NHLS. The other provinces are doing just not very well at all. So, Professor, we are not going to escape at educating us how you did that in the Western Cape, what are the things that should and must be done to make sure that all provinces are close to this outlier, a positive outlier, the Western Cape. Honorable members, let us therefore get comments, questions from yourselves. I'll recognize the hands as they come into the platform, and then we engage accordingly. Okay. The first, Michelle, is Honorable Clark in the platform now? I hope this is Michelle Clark. Is that Honorable Clark?
Yes, Chair, it's me, Honourable Clark. Sorry, I have had to connect on my phone because I'm having a site meeting with the Minister of Water and Sanitation as well, but he hasn't arrived yet, so I've been able to listen to the presentation.
We'll start with you, Honourable Clark. Thank you very much for logging in. We heard you might be struggling wherever you are, and we'll be followed by Honourable Dr. Leroux, who also gave your apology. And the third hand is Honourable Sinne. Honourable Sinne. I have seen those hands for now. Welcome. Honourable number 4 will be Honourable Motubasi. Motubasi, you're number 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 so far. If other hands do come up, I will then recognize them. But let's start now. Honourable Clark, as I write the fifth hand, Honourable Dr. Letlape. Start so that we don't get you cut off. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you for indulging me first. My first question is regarding the recent reports in the media of the anti-venom shortages. Can the NHLS please confirm the number and the type of anti-venom produced each month since 2023, as well as the distribution of vials? Can the department confirm the number of deaths or other serious injuries that has happened in this time? The hospitals have experienced shortages, and what is being done in each case? When are the renovations of the South African vaccine producers, SAVP, set to be completed? The cost, and has the project escalated in terms of money and time? And then on the annual report, has the former CEO paid the 22 million rand yet? And measures have since been put in place to ensure that the public resources of NHLS are safeguarded. There are reports that pension money is deducted from employees who were not paid over to Government Employees Pension Fund. Can the Minister confirm whether this is true, and if so, what actions were being taken to rectify this mismanagement and ensuring that employees receive the full pension entitlements? Then has a transition from old to new high-tech instruments to perform CD4 and HIV viral load test resulted been completed? What caused the shortage of the HIV viral load testing, and has this been resolved? If not, what measures have been put in place to resolve this, and what is the current backlog on these tests? Chairperson, I've still got about 5 more questions. Can I continue, or do you want me to send them in writing?
Send them in writing. I might do. Just give us 2 more, and then the 3 you can keep them and they'll send them to us. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chairperson. What plans are in place to replace or upgrade the aging lab equipment for RIA and electrolyte testing? And while the cost, benefits and feasibility reports for the POCT plan pending, have that been completed? How are discussions already underway regarding the rollout, and when these documents are pending? Is the NHLS in the process of advertising, recruiting new pathologists to conduct environmental health lab tests? And by what date does the NHL foresee the posts being filled? And then I'll send the rest through to Vuyo, Chairperson.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you. Honorable Dr. Leroux.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you to the CEO and the team for the presentation today. I wanted to just first ask, I know it was a very tough beginning for Dr. Misana as she came into the team, and 6 weeks on, we had that cyber attack. But I still don't quite understand what exactly happened with the cyber attack in terms of what the processes were that were inadequate. And I see that a whole lot of things have been put into place. But I think that we also need to say, I mean, this cyber attack was so devastating. It had a massive impact on patient outcomes. It had a massive impact on the whole country, really, in the state sector. And so there clearly were inadequate IT systems in place and inadequate oversight by the NHLS IT team. And so has there been any consequent management for the team, for the people involved there that were responsible and who oversaw the system when the attack happened? So was there consequent management? And secondly, I mean, in terms of upgrading the systems, I know that they have strengthened the password management for clinicians accessing the site, but has there been any consideration of kind of using sort of the gold standard, like a 2-point and OTP system, to make sure that we really do make sure that the right people are actually accessing the system? So that's the first question, was around the IT system. The second question is around the audit results. And for some years, NHLS received a clean audit, and this time around it was a qualified audit. And so I think we'd like to get a sense of what the main issues are from the perspective of management that you are addressing, and what measures are being put in place to there's significant issues raised in terms of suppliers, in terms of who the controls and financial controls in NHLS. And so I'd like to get a sense of what the plans are there. My third question is just around the statements that were put up on slide number 39. I just want to understand that the 2022-2023 years, the net surplus and deficit, net surplus was 3.1 billion. The next year it was 1.5 billion, but I don't actually know what happened to that 3.1 billion. I don't see that reflected on the statement from 2023-24. So perhaps it's just my financial illiteracy, but if I could just understand that. And the second question is the operating expenses went from about 406 million rands to 2.4 billion. That's nearly a 2 billion rand increase. What is the cause for that massive increase in operating expenses? And then I think some of my questions have been taken up by my colleagues, so I will leave it at that. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Dr. Leroux. Honorable Sinne.
Thank you very much, Chair, and my apologies. I'm not in a position to open my camera. Chair, point number one that I want to check, and also let me appreciate and welcome the presentation. I just want to know, Chair, as I heard in the presentations about the challenges that the entities facing, as financial challenges. Is there any collaborations that the entity might be having with private entities to enhance financial stability of the entity? That's my point number one. And point number two, I just want to know, in terms of the backlog, what is it that you are doing to inform the public on your backlogs? Because we are representing our constituencies here. We normally get complaints regarding the delay of NHLS. So I just want to know what mechanism are you using to inform the public when you are overwhelmed, you know? In terms of the non-increase as proposed, Chair already touched it. So we acknowledge the fact that you also acknowledge where you are not doing well. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah. Hello.
Honorable Mutubatse, is your turn now.
No, thanks. Thanks very much, Chairperson. I think I need to start off by welcoming the report that has been presented to us. Just generally, I think I've identified that there are some of the areas where where the entity was not able to achieve. But I get a sense that the presenters are just passing by to say that this we have not actually achieved, but there's no sense of consequence management that is being put to us as to what is it that is being done, or what is it that has been done, or what is it that is going to be done to rectify that. And I think that for me, it's a point that actually worries me, because the picture that has been printed to us is a very bleak picture. Because at some point I wanted to come back and ask, how did we arrive here? And I want to be taken into confidence so that I can have the confidence that this entity will be able to serve.
Honorable Mutubase, just hold on now. I've just received a call from Professor Mlisana that her whole team there, they are not able to hear us. They've just lost connection. So rather, we will lose them replying to you. When you just started, I don't know what Muti are you using, Honorable Mutubase. That they just
you gave tell them that you gave me something yesterday.
Let us wait for them to connect.
Okay.
Then we
Okay. No, we'll wait for them, Chair. Okay.
Yes, thank you very much. Sorry for.
Okay.
Honorable Chair, we are sorry about that. I'm not sure if we are back, whether you can hear us or not.
Yes, if you are back now, that's great. That is good. Thanks for
our sincere apologies.
those prayers and the magic that you use there. Honorable Mutubase, start again, sir. Thank you very much. Yeah.
No, thanks very much, Chair. I was saying that from the presentation that was done by the CEO, there are quite a number of challenges with the institute in terms of reaching their targets, and there are quite a number of challenges that have been identified. But I did not get a sense, and I don't get a sense of what is it that has been done, because I've got a sense that there are human beings that are occupying those positions in terms of consequence management, because it can't be business as usual. A sense that I'm getting now is that the institution is in a dire situation, unless otherwise I'm wrong in reading the situation. Is there any consequence management that is being taken in the institute? How did we arrive here, and what are the measures that are put in place to make sure that the situation doesn't go on a downward spiral? Because we have people that have been paid to perform those duties. Secondly, with regard, I heard later that we have internal audit. Whenever internal audit flags, I think some red flags to the AG, because normally that's what would happen. Is there any heeding of that call to mitigate those risks that have been raised by internal auditing at any point in time, so that the situation cannot be exacerbated, and what mitigating factors have been put in place to heed to that call that has been raised by internal auditors? The blood alcohol test, I think there are delays there. What causes this? And I think this backlog has serious consequences on other institutions, including, of course, the court cases that must actually go through. So what causes this particular delay? I heard there with regard to I didn't actually get a sense that TB is actually being prioritized with regard to the testing that is being done. Is there any reason why TB is not falling, or maybe I missed it? If I missed it, my apology. And on the point of care of testing, last week we were with the minister, and one of the questions that I raised was that we only have the testing for immediate results that is being done at the hospitals, and my wish was that it could be done at least even at the clinic level. Is there any way in which the institution can have the capacity in future to can train people who can be placed at the clinics level, so that we can have one-day testing, in particular with regard to TB, because that's the area where I'm focusing. The last question is with regard to staff migration. Skills flight that has been reported here. Is there anything that causes the skills flight to leave the institute? Because at one point I had the CEO indicating that that has been one of the areas that has caused the institution not to perform as expected. Is there any reason why, and if there are reasons, are there any reasons that are put in place to mitigate, to cap the skills flight within the institution? Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Motubase. Before I allow Dr. Klape just to announce that two other honorable members have shown an interest to want to participate. They will come in this order: Honorable Van Staden after Dr. Klape, and the last one will be Honorable Jatu. Thank you very much. Dr. Klape, come through.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for the report, and morning to everyone. My first question is, in terms of the PEPFAR withdrawals, is there any impact on the NHLS, just in terms of increased demand for services or whatever indirect cooperation and support you're getting from people that were being funded directly? And how do we mitigate for those issues? The second question is, we've had this issue about non-payment from provinces, etc., etc. And my question is about NHI readiness from NHLS in relation to payment. How do you understand how you're going to be paid? Is it now going to be coming from a central point? Would you be paid for bulk services, or will you be paid on services delivered patient by patient? How is that envisaged to work? And will it be better for you or worse for you going forward? And are those methods being negotiated? The third question is about the impact of unemployment of young professionals on the pipeline for production of professionals and of personnel for the future. What is going to be the impact on NHLS? And related to that, I've seen a challenge where we have young specialists that qualify, that want to serve in public service, and there are no posts for them, and the private sector is saturated, and they have to leave or have to undergo the expensive exercise of trying to set up their own labs, which is difficult. Is there a plan for absorption of the new specialist graduates into the NHLS? Do you have a staff retention plan? Do we have a growth path, as we have all these laboratories all over? Now we're having a plan of how much of the different personnel that we need and where that is going to be produced. The last question is, how can we help with the gap between what you ask for and what you are granted? And is there a cycle of negotiation? I was concerned when you revealed that even when you were given 1%, by the time the discussions were concluded, it had been out of cycle. what is the timetable so that these things should be concluded timelessly, so that if there's an increase, you get it in the time that you need it? How do we ensure that you have the resources that you need? And going forward, what would be ideal for NHLS in terms of your funding going into the future? What would be your blue sky request that this is the way we would like to operate, this is how we think it should be done going forward, and how we negotiate? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Van Staden.
Morning, Chair, and morning, everybody. Excuse me for not using my video. I tried a few minutes ago, but I see there was something wrong. Now, I have just one question, and it's actually 3 in 1. I just want to know if have this entity received any funding from PEPFAR? If you did, well, indeed, for what amount per year? And now that PEPFAR is stopped, what will the consequences be on this entity? Thank you, Chairperson.
Honorable Mjadu, thank you.
Honorable Chair, I'm sorry, I'm still having a problem with my camera, but next time I think I'll be able to open it. I'm new in this committee, but I'm having one question. Understanding that NHLS is accommodated at most health facilities, are they paying for accommodation? I just want to know that, and how much is NHLS receiving from NDOH? What is the revenue % split from charges from services rendered to health facilities, contribution from NDOH? And another thing, how often are these fees received and adjusted? And what are the main cost drivers of their services? I'm new in this comment. If I can, I think next time I will ask more questions. I just want to ask those two questions, and then okay. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Honorable Mjadu. Because you did not show us your camera on your first meeting, next time you come to join us, you'll wear a pastor's collar, please, and then we'll see you on that, and therefore we can approve you participating next time around. Thank you. Just to add on to some of the questions asked by my honorable members, Professor Mlisana, you have shown that there's a slide there where you are showing that on your forensic chemistry labs, you had put yourself a target of 40%, just less than a pass mark. But you achieved 7%, a single digit. Now, that is one of the very glaring poor achievement. We would just to know, what is this toxicology problem? You must have to educate me. In my constituency where I am, there are people who are affected by floods. I have stopped going to those films. I don't know what to do now. I speak to the investigating officer. This is not to do with DNA or what are you raising here. But again, there are people who were drunk and they were driving 6 years ago, and the specimens were sent in somewhere for testing, and the court must close that matter, and it's just not moving. So where is it that you are also a culprit on? What can we do to accelerate? I hear your ambition that you are thinking next year you'll do much better than where you are now next year. But really, I am struggling to understand. You say Pretoria offices, the Cape Town offices are doing fine. Which other office is not doing well? I thought that was the only 2 offices that you have in the country that are processing, the laboratories that are processing this. So please assist my understanding. Your accreditation of your labs, you have a 64% figure there. Is that a global picture that you have, or you are individualizing and you are counting? How did you come to that picture? Whether it's a global achievement, or you are saying, no, we did not achieve in Kimberley, but we achieved, so you are putting all that together and lumping it. You are struggling cash-wise, But in your presentation, you are talking about aging infrastructure. We have not factored in there to say, if you were to start revitalizing your infrastructure next week, next year, this is what it will take. This is the cost that you are allocating. This is what you are projecting as what you are coming in there. But my question is related to what Honorable Mchatu has asked. Which infrastructure is this that you are talking about? Are you talking about improving one wing of Tygerberg Hospital, where that is where you are kept, or we are improving part of Charlotte Maxeke? Where exactly are you looking into your own infrastructure? Because also you are provoking us when you talk about infrastructure, because where we come from, that's where there's been a fight. We don't know of NHLS paying for water and lights, and yet you do use quite a lot of water as a lab in the facilities, whether you are sitting at Charlotte Maxeke, Tygerberg, or Grooteskier, or wherever. Have you been built for that? And you are parking and all that. And if you were to be built, how much worse will you be in terms of what we are here? Because there is a problem here for them to pay with that. My last one is I'm happy that Dr. Anfang is here. It can't be that it is that NHLS running around again only to look into this issue of non-payment or delayed payments, because at the end of the day, it's going to be national where there's no receipt, where there are no labs done in the particular corner of the country because they are not able to do so. They didn't buy reagents. Now, is there a situation where in dealing with these matters, it's just not left to NHLS, go sort it out with Free State, go sort it out with Limpopo? It must be a joint effort, also collaboratively with the National Department of Health in support, because at the end of the day, this duty is done collaboratively for the country. That is where also I would like to see Professor Housey coming back to add on and maybe become our ambassador to really motivate and make sure we can do better. I know provinces are struggling, but maybe there's a temptation for province to say, look, maybe let me pay Aspen because they are not going to give you medication next week if they don't, but maybe delay or not pay NHLS because they are our sister institution. So if you don't pay them up to 8 billion, it's okay. We can continue doing that. Please assist us you can hear Professor Mlisa, and I do have a carrot and a chair and a stick to you to say you also have some of the things. You have my sympathy, but you also also now have challenges that you must sort out for ourselves. Thank you very much. Let me give it back to you, Professor Mphahlele, Professor Mlisana, and your whole team to support us with responses. Thank you.
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah. No, I just want to say thank you very much for this probing questions, and we will do our best to address them. And yeah, I think it's going to be a number of people who are involved in addressing the questions. But perhaps for a start, I would like to invite the new deputy chairperson of the board and just share his insights on the questions that you raised about collection of revenue and also the payments, of course.
Thank you, Chairperson and Honourable Chair. Just to indicate that I think it's probably invidious for me, having left the Western Cape 10 years ago, to comment in too much detail on how the Western Cape has done what it's done. And I think probably more appropriately, one should ask the head of the Western Cape, Dr. Keith Clitty, to elaborate. But I would just say that the Minister of Health at the time, and now also the Minister of Health, instituted the concept of essential items that provinces must fund. And one of those was laboratory services, and one hopes that it still is. So I think firstly is prioritization of key activities by provincial departments is an important aspect, and clearly laboratory services is absolutely key to the provision of quality healthcare. And secondly, the point that you touched on, and that is to minimize the overutilization of NHLS, or I think even in the private sector, the same thing would hold. And that is ensuring that duplications, triplications of tests because results have not been obtained timeously are stopped. I think that those steps, number one, making an adequate budget provision in the budgeting process through the MTEF, and secondly, ensuring that essential tests are done and there's no wastage, actually form a key aspect. I would also indicate that I think, as I think the CFO touched on, clearly KZN, KwaZulu-Natal's budget deficit is largely skewed by the historic debt that they have inherited. And from what I'm aware, and the chair of the NHLS can comment, and the CFO and CEO, I think that matter is in hand. But as a symptom of increasing financial pressures on provinces, I think that this probably reflects very, very clearly that, and it's a serious matter that is going to have to be taken into account. Just a general comment on that is that I'm very new on the board, and I have been impressed by the efforts made by the executive in the short time that I've been there to address the many challenges they are facing. And I think many of the questions that the honourable members have posed focus actually very specifically on many of the challenges that in the short time I've been on the board have actually entertained the board in its governance role. I think I'll stop at that, but thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, no, thank you very much, Prof. Craig. So, Chairperson, I'm not sure if this is adequate response to your questions before we move on. Otherwise, once we move on, there will be probably other things that will take time. Okay, I see your thumbs up. Thank you so much. So my suggestion, Chair, is that we start with the financial questions. And after that, we will tackle the laboratory service and then the rest of the questions that we asked. So I just want the CEO and the CFO to prepare themselves. But as an introduction to this, Honorable Dr. Tlape asked about whether we have got a process when we negotiate, whether we have got, any cycle when we negotiate for tariffs. So I just want to say that it's not really a cycle of negotiation as such, but it's rather a process. So it's a process which involves NHLS, the National Department of Health, of course, the Treasury. And it's just that last year, because of the cyber attack and because of the changing of management and also the chairman of the board, there were just so many things happening, and probably that could have led to the lapse or contributed to the reason we could not conclude this on time. Otherwise, we have never had this before. I think we may not necessarily get what we need or what we're asking for, but we do conclude the process on time. So last year it was just an exceptional year, and my take is that it's because of the number of things that were happening. So with that, Prof. Koleka, please, on the financial questions, starting with, and we'll just take them as were asked by honorable members, from the pension fund, Honorable Clark, all the way to the last question that was asked by the chairperson of the committee. So if you can cover all of them together with the CFO. Over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. maybe our format will be, I'm going to allow the CFO to look at all the, finance constraints related questions, and then and I will add, a little bit after that, and then we will ask the HR executive to address the issues around the pension fund. So we'll just focus on okay. Oh, the CFO will do that as well. Thanks. You go ahead, please.
Thanks, Prof. So Prof, the question on the pension fund payout, so interestingly, I think it was about a year ago where there was a document that was published of entities that did not pay over pension funds. But from our side, we went to our service provider, which is Alexander Forbes, because we always pay our suppliers by the end of the month. So we wanted to understand how it is that we saw our name appearing on that list, and they had indicated that there was an error, but I can give the honorable members and the board the assurance that as NHLS, we have not had issues. Even during the cyber attack, where we did have issues around our systems, we made the necessary arrangements together with the HR executive so that our employees as NHLS would not be impacted by that. So as NHLS, there's no issues around that. And then, Chair, I'm going to go into the audit issues last. Let me speak to the financial aspects first. So there was a question that was raised by, and I'm sorry that I'm not going to follow it in the format because I think I wanted to speak to it as it was raised, around the finances and the numbers that we see. So the surplus that's reported for 22-23 is a financial surplus. So as NHLS, we don't use an accounting framework that's similar to public departments, in that we use what is called GRAP. So what GRAP does is that it works on an accrual basis. So the 3 billion rand represents it doesn't represent a rand amount that's added into our bank account. Our bank account would be represented by a movement which is normally reflected in our cash flow statement, which we didn't necessarily speak to, but if we were to look at the 23-24 as a baseline, it would be around a 500 million rand increase. So that's the value that it represents. So it's the accounting adjustments that speak to that. And then the question that was asked around the significant movement that we see around operating expenses. So there was a new standard that was implemented by NHLS in 22-23 that required us to do a comprehensive exercise together with our then auditors. So just to say that the NHLS has not been audited by the Auditor General 100%. In 22-23, we were audited at 20% by AG. 23-24, we were audited 50%. AG will be auditing us 100% from this financial year. So when we did the exercise with the audit firm that was appointed at the time, we did almost a catch-up entry in terms of implementation of an accounting adjustment. So we then processed a negative expense in terms of the entries that were done as adjustments in 22-23. So that was what impacted the significant reduction in our operating expenses. So in terms of what drives an increase in our cash flow versus what we report as a surplus, those will not be aligned because the accrual basis is not the same as almost a cash basis, which what the NHLS does not use. And I hope that does clarify that. And then in terms of so I'll let Prof speak to how can we be assisted in terms of the gaps, in terms of what we ask for, what we request, and maybe Anban can also come in terms of that. If you were to ask me as the CFO, what does the blue sky request look like? I would say it probably is one where we at least get the tariff for which we request, which we've tried to keep to be aligned to inflation, but also for the provinces to have an ability to service the debt. That would definitely make sure that as the NHLS, we're able to maintain our financial sustainability. So that would be what a blue sky model would look like for us. And then in terms of the questions that were asked around what do we pay for in terms of the provinces? So currently, we don't currently pay any rentals for the spaces that we occupy, but there are some provinces that send us invoices in relation to utilities, either based on square meters or a percentage that we've agreed on per the terms of reference as a percentage of whatever they have as their bill. So it's not all provinces that are implementing that. And just to say, Chair, the current proposal in respect of that is that we are going to form a working group with all the provinces and ourselves so that we can actually agree on what is going to be an appropriate terms of reference, and then we'll make a determination of what those costs need to be for the NHLS. And then, Chair, you did ask how much worse do you think that would be? Yes, that would add to our cost base, but from our side, we understand that the provinces are incurring those costs, so I think it is only fair that we are charged for the spaces that we are occupying. But in terms of how much it will cost us, because that is still work in progress, I'm not able to respond in terms of how much that will be, and it will also depend on what we decide are going to be the appropriate rates for those square meters, which may vary from province to province based on the property values and other variables that people in that space would understand better than me, Chair. And then I think the other question that Honorable Jalu had asked was, do we receive any monies from the NDOH in terms of a transfer funding? So currently the NHLS is a free for service. So we do not, so the monies that are received by NHLS are actually monies that are received from the provincial departments. However, we do receive an allocation for our institutes, which Prof spoke to earlier on, which is NICD, FCL, NLOH, and also we do receive a portion for the teaching, training, and research grant. So what we've seen in that space as well is that because there was budget cuts, there was a reduction in terms of the amount we received in 23-24 in comparison to the amount that we received in that particular category for 22-23. So that's the only allocation that as NHLS we receive. And then what are our main cost drivers? Our main cost driver is going to be our cost of employment, because we are a labor intensive entity, but then we obviously spend a lot of money around ordering items for the tests that we provide. So those are the two major components that make up most of our cost as NHLS. And then I think the next question that I'll take, Chair, and I hope I didn't leave anything out, is audit results. So I must express that as NHLS, we were significantly disappointed that after having a 5-year trend of being unqualified, we sit with a qualified audit opinion. And on management's part, we are very much committed to making sure that we go back to the situation before. And we do understand that there is a bit of a transition that we need to accommodate in terms of audit methodologies between how the audit firm, the private audit firm was auditing us versus how AG audits from our side. And we've been working very closely with the Auditor General team, even with the constraints that existed with the cyber attack, to make sure that we're working around the turnaround times. And we've had the support in terms of internal audit getting us there. But we have presented the plan that will speak towards an improvement on our audit outcome, though we anticipate that we'll still sit at a qualified audit opinion because of the amount of time that we had in terms of finalizing our audit, because we only received our audit report in December. But rest assured, and I can give the members the assurance that from our side as management, we are committed to it. And yes, there was challenges in terms of filling vacancies with the appropriate individuals in terms of driving the direction around issues that are problematic around the audit. But we do have an audit action plan that speaks to the issues that have contributed to the audit opinion, and we'll be working as management to make sure that most of those issues are addressed by the time that we are subjected to an audit from the 1st of June of this year. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thanks, Sefo. Maybe just to add a few things around finance.
Yes. Okay. All right. Go ahead, Prof. Nitsana, because I wanted Pumeza to also cover the question on internal audit team. I think it was raised by Honorable Mutubatse. But make your input first, and then it could be maybe including the internal audit question.
Okay. Thanks, Chair. So whilst we have got the various plans in how we have conversations and agreements with the provincial departments, as well as the discussion around the tariff increases, whilst those, are processes that have got to be attended to urgently, so with clear plans and answers. Internally, we are also looking as an entity on how can we actually improve our efficiencies. I think Prof. Housem already mentioned one of the studies that the Western Cape has done, and this is something we want to ensure that we implement, and it is monitored very closely, what we call the electronic gatekeeping, because we are all aware, both the provinces and ourselves, that there's a lot of duplication of tests and therefore wastage that happens at lab level. So at the moment we are actually piloting what we call an order entry that is going to manage the requisition of tests in the hospitals and larger healthcare facilities, and we will then include the EGK rules within that system, and we really want to make a plea to the provinces that none of those rules must be overruled, because this is what happens sometimes. And we are also expanding e-labs that is being used by the clinics. We will expand this to the rest of the primary health facilities, because then it's going to allow us to monitor how tests are requested, and we'll put in rules as to what can be repeated after how long. So we're hoping that once we institute that, we monitor it clearly, it will immediately reduce some of the wastage that happens. There are other areas that we're looking at to tighten whatever gaps we have internally, because we need to do this for financial prudency. So we're looking at where there are duplications for whatever reason, how do we streamline that? I did talk about, for example, insofar as digital pathology. What digital pathology is going to do, because then all the anatomical pathologists can sign out and report on test results, we are confident that this will reduce the amount of work that is outsourced to the private sector, because that is costing us quite a bit. There's a lot of other areas that we really want to see how to tighten, the belt. Now we want to move towards a position of rather going for placement of instruments than buying the instruments, because buying turns out to be more expensive. And now, if you're looking at the tests and technologies that we do, they allow for multiple disease testing within one instrument, and so we're moving towards that, and we're thinking this will actually improve our efficiencies. The other area around finance, Dr. Nitlape asked what would be our blue sky wish. I think for me, one other thing, would really be if the national province can actually ring-fence laboratory testing funding, so that we don't depend on whether how often do we talk to provinces. Are we on their face for them to remember that, oh, we must pay bills for the NHLS? So really for us as an entity, I think if there could be a way of ring-fencing, all diagnostic testing funding into a pot, that would make our life much easier, because then, we would know exactly what is it that we're working within, and would ensure efficiencies around that. And then, Chair, I think, let me then just take the internal audit. In fact, I had thought maybe even that Mr. Goko might want to speak to this, as Chair of Audit and Risk, because obviously we do have the internal audit unit within the NHLS, which reports directly to the board, and there have been areas that have been raised, and what becomes our responsibility as the executives is to ensure that all the gaps that are highlighted by the internal audits are followed through. I must say we have not been doing this 100%, but we now have committed into ensuring that, as the internal audit reports and findings come through, there's got to be a proper a follow-through and implementation of those recommendations. Then the other area which has come from a few honorable members is around consequence management. And in fact, the team, will testify to this, that we really have realized that we really have not been the best at consequence management as an entity. And as Prof. Housem was saying earlier on, we have brought this to the board and we have committed that really moving into the future, this is how we need to do. We have already started to do this because, if, for example, we're talking around some of the audit findings, within, from AG, there are specific areas that require consequence management, and we are committing as the executive to implement that. It is the same as well with IT-related issues, that there's got to be consequence management. Otherwise, then we are always going to be going around in circles without achieving what we need to achieve. Mr. Nkoko, I'm not sure if you want maybe to start introducing us into the IT cyber attack as to, from the risk perspective, where we're sitting. There was a question around, has there been any, what is it that we have found? Maybe, I don't know if you want to just take that before I ask the IT, acting IT executive to respond to the questions. Okay, maybe I can just continue, Chair. So the board did actually institute a forensic investigation into the IT cyber attack, and this came from the chair of the Audit and Risk Committee. And so we have had a service provider come in and do a proper, forensic to understand what were the issues, how did we end up getting hacked, and where are the gaps and what needs to be done. And we have received a report. It's just that we received this report last week and we presented it to the Audit and Risk Committee. It is still to be reported to the board. So there's been a very clear audit of what actually happened, and we're then beginning to identify where the areas were and what therefore is going to, what kind of consequence management we're going to have to deal as an organization. I just wanted to assure the members, that the honorable members, that the board has taken the responsibility and there is a forensic, and we are going through that forensic report, and whatever consequences that need to be taken will be taken. But otherwise, now let me hand over to the acting IT executive to take us through some of the challenges within IT and what it is that we have done. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, CEO. Through you, Chair. So I'll talk through what happened. Okay, what happened after the cyber attack, what measures we have put in place to try to create resilience in IT. So in IT, mainly we were affected by the cyber attack because, number one, of the infrastructure. Most of our infrastructure is also outdated, so we have a huge challenges there. If we are talking of infrastructure in LIS, Oracle, in Microsoft Space, where we were attacked, and also CDW. So that creates a lot of vulnerabilities. We can't update our systems and put patches in there. So then it opens up a lot of vulnerabilities in that environment. So it created that risk, which was then utilized by the hackers to be able to penetrate our environment and carry out a cyber attack. It also talks to there's need to improve our governance structures so that we have all the necessary committees for decision making, and also IT issues are properly represented and listened to. The other thing which I can talk to is skills. There is a lack of skills. As the world of technology has evolved, NHLS, I can say it is also remained behind in terms of technology-wise and skills. So with the CEO, that's what we are working on trying to transform the environment, to digitize everything in our environment. from the infrastructure, business processes, and the technology which we're gonna use. So we are working with different partners to be able to transform from the point where when we are tagged to a point which will be up to the standards, which is a acceptable minimum standards acceptable for us to be able to have the proper digitized information technology. The other security measures which we have put, we have acquired a SOC solution. So with the SOC solution, which is a security operations center, it now monitors our environment and everything which happens regarding changes to our administrative access or responsibilities, where hackers manage to access the administrative passwords and use those passwords to be able to hack our environment. So the SOC monitors every change which happens on administrative level, and it informs us so that we can be able to act. We have got also an XDR, VPN, and multi-factor authentication to help us on security measures. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. That was just highlighting some of the efforts we have done to improve our security and ensure that it is resilient. I am then going to move on to lab services related questions. And really, I think the issues around lab infrastructure is an issue that is probably well known, and even the fact that we have not managed to reach our turnaround times. This keeps coming. So what really is a challenge is that we have got a lot of systems that we need to revamp and ensure that our processes are optimized. At the moment, that there's still a lot of work we need to do around that. Whether it is at our procurement level, we actually are currently developing a procurement plan to see how we can fast track the procurement processes, because they are not optimal as to where we would like to see them. As a result, this has caused a lot of a backlog insofar as improving laboratory technologies, and that's why we are ending up with this aging infrastructure. So there has been a budget that has been put aside to address this, and we are also putting systems in place to ensure that our procurement processes are much faster, and we have committed this to the board. And it is just that as we introduce new technologies, we will expect delays because there will be training, there is switching over, but once then the new technologies are in place, we should be able to operate in a much better efficient ways. There was a question around TB prioritization. I must say, Chair, there is definite prioritization, of TB. So we have got a unit that is called National Priority Programs, which looks at HIV-related testing, whether it's HIV viral loads, it's CD4 counts, it's cryptococcal antigen testing, and there's also TB, because TB is a critical program for the country, as well as HPV now. So we are definitely focusing on that. Maybe we just did not mention it here, but otherwise, if you're looking at even the testing, there were questions around the transitioning of technologies when we moved from one technology in viral load testing to what we are currently having. We have experienced a few challenges, but we are currently managing those to ensure that the machines, technologies that we are using are able to actually manage the volumes that are demanded. Around TB testing, we also have changed the technologies that we are using, but we are currently looking to see how we ensure that as the testing, platform, we will be able to cope with the demands that have been proposed by the National Department of Health to increase TB testing. So there is testing that happens across all laboratories, but what we have also done is, I think there was a question around, around the vehicles, the mobile laboratories that were purchased. In fact, we have got a clear plan how we're going to utilize those, and around finding missing TB cases, the use of those vehicles becomes part of that, because we have teamed with some of the recipients of the Global Fund to offer laboratory testing for TB when they are doing, mobile x-rays. So we are looking at how can we enhance TB testing and bring it closer to, to the patients, rather than, only for patients who have to travel to bigger facilities. So we are prioritizing TB testing. I really just wanted to confirm that. And the other issues around the laboratory services, I've already mentioned that we are looking to see what are the best models when it comes to advancing technology, and we are reviewing this. And will be, in fact, you will find that what we're talking about is already included in our 5-year, strategic plan. And if the honorable members are able to have access to that, they will see what the plans are in how we want to improve our service platform. So, Chair, I think I want to then move to SAVP, because there were quite a few questions around that, and I'm going to ask Dr. Oliphant to address those. So there were questions around the anti-venom, just to give a clear, report to the members of where we're sitting. What about the renovations? She's going to address that, and she then will also take us through the FCL, because she has the FCL, what it is, and I agree with you, Chair, that the 7% that we achieved is definitely unacceptable, and we need to we have identified what the issues are, and we have put a plan in progress, and Dr. Oliphant will take us through those questions.
Perhaps before that, Mulisana, if we can just touch on the question of shortage of HIV viral load tests, because it was quite specific. So that it's not given just a general response, but you have already given on the test and aging instruments.
So, Chair, thank you for reminding me about that. Yes, Chair, I had that question. So I am wondering whether this may have surfaced when we were transitioning from the old tender to the new tender, where there were backlogs, because all of that now has been cleared. So we shifted from one service provider to another, and during that time, because not all the instruments were placed as they should have been, so there were backlogs that we encountered, but we have managed to clear that. In fact, at the moment, insofar as I know, and there are notes around the table, we really have not had a challenge around HIV testing. But it is true that we are anticipating that in the future, especially with the recent announcement by the minister, that we're looking at increasing, viral load testing by another 1.1 million tests. So we are currently planning, because the current capacity that we have, it might not be able to take on the 1.1 extra million. So we have already started to explore what then we are going to have to do to ensure that we're able to actually manage that capacity. But otherwise, now that we have moved to the new service provider, we have managed to settle, and there are no backlogs. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, CEO. So, Dr. Clotilde, before you talk about SAVP questions, would you mind just to close the loop on the backlog? Because certainly there were a couple of questions including the question raised by Honorable Chair, why the backlog is not gaining traction. We know the results as NHLS, but maybe if you can just share that with committee members.
Thank you, Chair. And good morning to Honorable Chair and members. In terms of the questions that were asked by Honorable Chair Dr. Doma on the backlogs in the forensic chemistry laboratories, I'm going to start with the blood alcohol, the questions related to blood alcohol, because there was a question around the tests that were taken up a few years ago and so on. So the backlog for blood alcohol, previously the backlog was in 3 of the laboratories, but as mentioned, the only remaining laboratory that has a backlog is the Johannesburg Forensic Chemistry Lab. This lab did have the largest number of samples in backlog and has worked quite consistently to reduce that over the past 2 years. These samples are taken for blood analysis to assess the alcohol content in cases of suspected drunken driving, as mentioned. And the remaining backlog at the Johannesburg laboratories is expected to be completed by the end of this financial year, Honourable Chair. And it at this stage does not go back as many years as in the past. So in terms of blood alcohol, the backlogs will be completed by the end of this reporting period. For toxicology, there are long-standing issues and there are backlogs that date back for a very long time. I think the CEO did touch on the capacity of those laboratories. There are only 3 laboratories that service the national demand. And the tests that are being performed there is the analysis of biological and tissue and fluid samples to test for the presence of poisons or drugs in instances of unnatural death. And this assists the forensic pathologist in the determination of the cause of death. So previously, in the previous period, we reported on the overall strategy in the forensic chemistry labs, which was to improve on service delivery generally in the labs, and we started with that process to increase analytic capacity and technical expertise in the forensic labs. They had, I think in our previous reports, there was an additional laboratory established in Pretoria where additional blood alcohol and toxicology testing was being performed. There was also additional improvements in staff, filling of vacancies, and ensuring functional instruments and replacement of aging infrastructure. We continue with those plans in establishing an additional laboratory at the Durban FCL, because not additional space to expand toxicology testing. That laboratory is not currently performing toxicology testing, and the establishment of an additional lab there will certainly improve the service for the drainage area, which is the KwaZulu-Natal and the Eastern Cape provinces. So that there is a discussion underway with the KwaZulu Department of Health, KwaZulu-Natal Department of Health, around infrastructure and additional space in the laboratory. In addition, the CEO did mention our specific plan that is aimed at addressing the toxicology backlog. So in addition to expanding general testing capacity in the labs, we are also focusing specifically on the toxicology backlog. And so additional staff and space and equipment will be acquired over the next 2 years. There's a fixed period for this backlog to be addressed, Honourable Chair, and it will be a fixed term staff and placement contracts for equipment, so that there is a fixed period allocated to this strategy. So that's the plan for toxicology. Instead of the general interventions, there's also a fixed intervention that looks at addressing those toxicology backlogs specifically, while the routine work is also being handled by the laboratories. Okay. So I'm going to go on to the questions by Honourable Clark that related to the South African vaccine producers. The SABP, as members would know, is the only producer of antivenom required in the treatment of snake, scorpion, and spider envenoming. The production of these products is quite labor intensive. There are long lead times and it's subject to good manufacturing practices as it is a sterile manufacturing unit. The member asked about the general production volumes, and over the past few years, the SABP has maintained between 9,000 and 12,000 ampules per year. And these ampules are distributed to the public and private health sector, as well as wholesalers who then further distribute to veterinarians and other healthcare providers. There was a question about the exact volumes per sector, and we would like to request to maybe provide this information in a written response around exactly how much volume and proportions are distributed to each sector. And then in terms of the renovations, over the period since April last year, there was a series of essential interventions, renovations, repairs, and maintenance work that was performed at the sterile unit. These activities were critical to ensure that the SABP complies with its good manufacturing practice to retain its manufacturing license. And they were planned to take place during the autumn-winter period when the demand for antivenom is known to be at its lowest. There have been, I think, parallel breakdowns in equipment at the same time, but the renovations project itself did not expand in terms of its scope of work or the cost of the project. The renovations work have been completed, and there are still repairs to the air handling unit that's being finalized, and so the SABP is now focusing on the commissioning of the sterile unit, which will commence during March as well. It will involve processes of validation and qualifications, and once these are concluded, then the production processes will commence again. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We can then move on to the rest of the questions, but perhaps if I can just provide some guidance to say, let's tackle the issue of the impact of US aid, termination of US aid funding to South Africa and other countries, of course, which PEPFAR is included in that. And yeah, and I think I think that is actually the question that was not answered up to now. There could be other questions that I missed, but please, CEO, fill me in. So go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for that. Honourable members, yes, the issue of PEPFAR funding, there have been a lot of questions, whether this has, how much has this affected the NHLS? And my response always is that, fortunately, the bulk of our funding is actually internal, it's government funding, it's from the provinces. And you find that, with grants generally and external funding, we're probably looking at around 10%, if not even less, which is fortunate. But you find that there are pockets within the NHLS who really are, have got heavily subsidized by those grants, and the NICD is one of those, and we've got Prof. Puren here, and he will talk to this briefly. But just overall, so fortunately, the majority of the US funding that we're getting is coming from CDC. And we have actually been in communication with the CDC, and right now, they have actually informed us that we are able to access the funding as was planned before, because there are still, the US government, there's a term that I'm looking for, in that there has been questions about his action, and therefore, what is the correct term? Yeah, it's interdicted. Yes, sorry. That was English there running away from me. So the stop order has therefore been interdicted. As a result, CDC has allowed us to access the funding, but it also just says to us as an entity, we do need to explore how we're going to manage this into the future. But I'm going to allow Prof. Puren to, because that's where there may have been direct impact, and he can just talk to us briefly. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Chair. Good afternoon, honourable members. With regard to the PEPFAR funding, as Professor Benassara said, there are two sources. It's either through CDC or USAID. We've been fortunate that the extent of USAID fund is not to the same extent as CDC funding. However, USAID funding is towards a really critical component that supports the National Department of Health with regard to the notifiable medical conditions. So this is a really critical consideration. The NHLS and through the board has agreed to support, at least for an interim period, those particular staff members, but we really need to find a long-term solution. Similarly, with the CDC funding, the NICD receives a significant proportion of funding to sustain routine surveillance systems. And so therefore, I think we really need to rethink carefully how we're going to sustain these surveillance systems in the absence of funding or declining amounts of funding that we do receive. Thanks very much.
Yes. Chair, just to help you, what's outstanding, there was a question around how we're managing staff migration, and there was also a question around AQUA, around the accreditation of labs and the pathologists that are being trained and likelihood of them, of us ensuring that, for jobs, for them when they qualify. And so if you'll allow me, I can ask the HR executive to maybe touch.
Please go ahead, Prof.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, C and Chair. So in terms of, if you look at our APP, you will notice that we have a target actually on turnaround time, turnover of employees, which we have been meeting consistently. However, when we drill it down, we realize that we have areas where we are struggling to retain employees, which is mostly in the pathology space, and also in slightly in the ICT space. We have since put together a talent management strategy, which is going to address those areas. However, from a pathology perspective, what we have done is we have introduced a retention clause in the training of pathologists, because we realize that we actually lose these pathologists as they complete and get into the PhD level. So we have introduced at least a 2-year retention clause to keep them during the period. However, it's also important to note that we do not have an automatic retention strategy within the NHLS, purely because our retention is vacancy driven, and we also trying to assist the CFO with managing the cost of employment with that. So unfortunately, we know that we cannot retain all of the registrars and the interns that we train. However, where we have vacancies, we actually prioritize those. CEO, if you may allow me, I actually wanted to make a comment. In addition to what the CFO has mentioned around the pension funds, I believe that the question was driven by the issue that is happening now with FCL pensions, and maybe I should assist to respond to that. So when the employees of FCL moved into NHLS,
they were given an opportunity to elect whether they're going to join Alexandra Forbes or stay on GPF. So we've been experiencing challenges with now the introduction of the two-pot system, where the funds of the employees that are supposed to be moved from GPF to Alexandra Forbes through the Section 14 process have not been finalized. As a result, those employees are struggling to access their pensions for the two-pot system. We have been engaging all the parties involved, and we actually have a meeting with GPF on the 11th, which is next week, and see how if we fail with this as a last attempt, we're going to request an engagement from you and the commissioner of the GPF, because we understand how serious this is for those employees that are struggling to access their thing. We've been on it for the past 3 months, but yeah, thank you. Thanks.
Okay, so Honorable Chair, we believe we exhausted the questions. We would like to hand over to you, but if you may allow, perhaps I can just check with my fellow colleague board members for 2 minutes or so, if there is further input that they would like to offer based on the questions. Okay, Prof. Tivan.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to just contribute. Thank you. I hope you can hear me. I would like to contribute to the question relating to expansion of point-of-care diagnostic services to the same level as what is offered at hospital. So meaning that these should also be expanded to clinic level. And that was a question that was asked as to what we are doing to improve that service or to scale up point-of-care diagnostic services. So at NHLS level, point-of-care diagnostic services is one of the priority areas that we're working on to see that that the services are, before we even scale up, to ensure that there are systems in place to ensure that those services, when they're expanded to clinics, are reliable and that they produce results that are desirable for the community. So that there was a question also relating to training of staff to ensure that that service is well delivered. The NHLS is also very much committed to doing that. There are programs that are being developed to ensure that, but everything is still at concept stage. We are discussing a lot around that area and developing those programs to ensure that there is a special cadre of staff that will help support and provide oversight for safe delivery of point-of-care diagnostics at community level. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Prof. Tivani. So with this, okay, I see the last hand from
Honorable Chair, we
Wena.
will not be that generous. We will not have all
Okay,
the
then
members
we leave it here.
will make it. Otherwise,
Yeah, we leave it here. Over to you.
Yes, thank you very much. Sorry, Honorable Dr. Koko. We would like to put it to a close this session now, because the committee has other businesses to do, and some of us are doing this meeting out in the parliamentary residences, and we have to be in the house quite soon. I have a pressure myself as a chair. There's a meeting that I've just seen now reflected at 1 o'clock. I must be in Parliament for meetings of chairs. We would like to bring this one to a close. There are certain things that you are seeing that is a red zones, Professor Mphahlele, that we would like you to keep an eye on, so that when we do meet one of those, we are glad with what we have done on the cyber attack that came in. You have actually not achieved some of the very critical issues that your presentation is highlighting. We would really like to be even a progress report of how we are managing that. We do accept the explanation given, but this is areas that are quite critical. There are issues of engagement. I think you'd be successful if you engage provinces together with the National Department of Health. It can't be left to you to run around the country while whatever they pay you is an allocation that comes from national. And therefore to say whatever you pay them is not adequate enough. Right now, as we are going to start a new financial year, they've got huge accruals that they have to deal with. Among others is to really pay NHLS. So whatever that they receive, it has to be recorded that it is not adequate. Whatever that must be done is something that needs to be done. So we would like to thank you for this and hope that you will be able to improve on your audit outcomes in this financial year. You have always been doing well, and maybe you come back to that. And if there are any other questions, honorable members, that you have not been clearly satisfied to answer, please follow up like Honorable Michelle Clark has written some of the questions to the NHLS via our secretary. We would like to bring this item to a close and thank you very much for your contributions. Professor Mpahlele, Professor Mlisana, maybe your wrap up, whatever that Dr. Koko wanted to say, you can say it via you now. Give you this last opportunity to wrap up, and then you can the platform. Thanks.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Honorable Chair, Dr. Dlomo. We always appreciate this platform to engage with the honorable members of the committee, and we are always grateful that you provide very constructive feedback, engagement. You provide excellent advice and guidance, and we would like to see this going on. And from our side, we will always continue and strive for improvement in everything that we do, despite the limitations that we might have and the challenges that we might have. And we understand that the diagnostic service is critically important. And this is one of the areas that we like to believe that we are doing it with great passion. Even if the targets are not quite reached, we will strive to reach the target and continue to be efficient. And we take the audit findings very seriously as well, and we continue to improve on that. So with these remarks, we'd like to thank you, Honorable Chair and Honorable members of the committee. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Prof, and thanks to your team and your leadership. We will thank you very much. Continue supporting this NHLS entity. It's a very critical entity in the country, and we wish you well and in your other activities in the country. Thank you. You may then exit the platform because the other items that are coming in may not be of that great interest to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye-bye. Ms. Machalamba, there's the minutes of the meeting we held with the minister, a portfolio committee of minister when he presented the PEPFAR. I think that's the first minutes. The PEPFAR challenges. What is their plan? I think it is that set of minutes and the minutes of last week. If you could just fly to the first one. Oh yeah, no, sorry. This one was the briefing by the Department of their first, second, and third quarter. Yes. Honorable members, just do check whether your name is appearing there and you are there. Send it up a bit. Obviously, Honorable Mchat, you were not there, and therefore we don't apologize. We didn't include your name, but from now onwards, we'll include your name. We didn't have any apologies. Move up. So these minutes, honorable members, have been sent to us and we read. This is where the minutes, the department presented their first, second, and third quarter reports. And we had our engagement with them. There were gaps that we raised and we asked certain questions. So this is also to be reflected in our, that after they've briefed us, we engaged with the minister, with the department, and they responded back to us. And we want to take that this meeting is reflective. This means to reflect that the committee, hold on there, the committee having engaged with the presentation made the following resolutions. One, that the department should focus on recruiting and cover the areas of women and persons with disabilities, that the department in its report should include visited facilities, and therefore the targets should also include clinical outcomes. And we had others that are embedded in our discussions, but can we then, honorable members, agree that this is a reflection of the minutes that we discussed? And if so, by show of hands, may I recognize members who want us to adopt these minutes? And I do see Honorable Teko give a platform to speak.
Yes, Chair. Good day, everyone. I just tend to approve the minutes as a reflection of what happened in that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Teko. She was present in the meeting. Any other member who would like to second the minutes? I don't want to see Honorable Mchatu raising his hand today, some other time. Honorable Van Staden, can I recognize you, sir?
I'll second, Chair.
Thank you very much. Minutes approved and seconded. Then so let's stand down. Thank you very much, honorable members. Ms. Machalamba, a second set and the last. Is that true, Ms. Machalamba, that you have only one more other set? Yes. Yeah, this is the one that Ms. Machalamba was trying to push her luck during this meeting of listening to the presentation of sanitary pads, a very long and very emotive presentation that got all of us involved. Just check your names that you are there. Honorable Totally Clapped, apologize. So this was a very important discussion that were taken through, where the last of the portfolio committees that were to be engaged, the portfolio on the women, children, and people with disabilities has been engaged. The one on the basic education, and I think also higher education. And we agreed on this meeting that we are going to be a part of a big group of portfolio committees that must get a way forward on this matter. But the lead department is reflective. I think it's what basic education. Members will remind me whether people is a portfolio committee of people living with disabilities, youth, and women. In our resolutions, after engaging this presentation, the committee adopted the following resolution 1, that the committee secretary should obtain the report that the portfolio committee on women, youth, and people with disabilities had and ensure that it is shared with the committee. I have not seen it, Ms. Machalamba. You probably will share it with us. If you have, thank you very much. I haven't seen it yet. A joint meeting should then be convened with other relevant committees to discuss the matter further. And the lead department here will be this one of a portfolio committee of women, youth, and persons with disabilities. That the committee should actively support the initiative for free sanitary pads and advocate for collaboration as well as educational outreach to raise awareness on this issue. That was our resolution after listening. So this is a work in progress. We hope that our Secretary 1 will forward us that report. Number 2, she will collaboratively speak to other committee secretaries as to when we can, under the leadership of this portfolio committee, meet and engage and take this discussion forward. Honorable members, if then we could get confirmation that this was really discussed with us. Any member who wants to move the minutes?
The report has been shared already, Chair. Thank you.
What
I
has been
shared the report from the Portfolio Committee on Women, Youth and Persons with Disability.
Oh, yeah.
I've
it's
shared
just
with the members already.
It's me who's lazy to let's read them. Two hands there. See Honorable Taiko and Honorable Mutubasi. Let me recognize Honorable Taiko first. Or it's an old legacy hand. I don't know. Honorable Mutubasi.
No, thanks, Chair. I want to move, but first, just to check with you on the last point. Does it cover the point that I raised to continuously encourage our points, that is the health points, to strive to have sanitary pads available just in a similar manner where condoms are available, and maybe strive to encourage that this be budgeted for? If that is the understanding of adding that particular point, I would move, Chair.
Yeah, we would still have to engage with that because we can make a resolution here without looking into the financial cost. And the point is, the principle is good. Let us also bring it up into that bigger space because the budgeting may actually not come from health alone. It may have to come from social development. So let's carry that principal position into our joint meeting of all portfolio committees. Okay. And I take you that you are moving in. And then any seconder, Honorable Van Staden.
I'll second with amendment, Chair.
Thank you very much. Let's second that. Thank you. Honorable members, this brings us to the close of our meeting, having moved and seconded these minutes, and we'll take it from there. I can't remember whether, Ms. Machalamba, we have a portfolio committee meeting next week. Not sure yet.
Can we discuss that outside this meeting? Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, because we need to agree with Ms. Machalamba to bring a tentative draft program to this committee, even if maybe it is just that virtual meeting to look into that will be understood. Honorable Dr. Letlape, a new point?
No, not a new point, Chair. Just on a process of procedure on minutes. They should be moved and seconded and then put to the committee for approval. You have a mover and a seconder. You then put it to the committee, all those for approval, and then we approve
it. There was a mover on these minutes by Honorable Motubasa and seconded by Honorable Van Staden.
Yes, and I'm just reminding the Chair that then you put it to the committee so that the committee approves. Just to complete your processes, Chair.
Okay. The committee therefore does concur with the mover and the seconder. Is that what you'd like to hear? Because now I must open up for another debate again.
I'm not asking for opening up of a debate. I'm just saying as a final step, just get the committee to concur, and then the minutes are approved.
Okay. For both minutes that you have raised, the committee to concur and agree on these minutes. Thank you very much. Is that so, honorable members? Yes, we do. And therefore, we take it is done if no other hand comes up. Thank you very much, honorable members. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. We will discuss with the chair, with the secretary, or what's our situation for next week. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair.
Bye.
Bye.